All right, welcome everyone to our Lyft mentoring webinar. Tonight's topic, how to maximize your summers in college. We do have a representative from the Center for Career Development who will be doing a brief presentation just to get folks acquainted with resources that are available, but also how to think through ways to be productive during the summers while you are in college. Additionally, once the representative from the Center for Career Development is done with his presentation, we will transition over to our panelists. We have two amazing alums who have joined us today. When we get there, have them introduce themselves. They are doing amazing work. So also people that I highly encourage students to get in touch with. Without further ado, just so you know, throughout the presentation, throughout the session tonight, you can use a chat function if you have any questions, any comments, or anything like that. Just drop it in the chat box. And even towards the end, there will be opportunities to ask questions. But once the panelists are sharing and once Ben from the Center for I'm going to say CCD. Even when he's presenting, feel free to throw any questions in the chat box. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Chris Campbell, pronouns he, him, and his, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Office of Multicultural Education. Without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Ben.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Chris, and thanks to our alums for being here and for the students that took some time out of their evenings to spend this with us. I will keep my presentation brief so that you can hear from the alums, which I'm sure you're probably way more interested in hearing from. So I will go ahead and share my screen. We can talk through a couple things. So the summer is really kind of a critical time in terms of career development. And I think that sometimes if you don't have an internship or something like that, it feels like you're a little bit stuck when it comes to those things. But there's really a lot that you can do over the summer in order to be productive with your career development. And we're going to talk through these things a little bit today. All right. So I'm just going to get started by talking a little bit about Handshake. I'm sure that some folks are familiar with this, but there's a couple of ways to utilize it over the summer in order to kind of keep your career development moving. So Handshake, for lack of a better term, is the 24/7 online center for career development. We use it for a number of different things. So first and foremost, people mostly know it as a place where you can search for job and internship opportunities. Certainly can do that. Schedule appointments with a career advisor, can do that as well. And then we have an awesome resource library that I think goes a little bit underutilized. So, just to poke through quickly, this is the job search feature. And if you are looking for internship opportunities, or maybe you're not able to do an internship and you're looking for part-time opportunities, these filters are super easy to use. It's a relatively user-friendly system. And a label that I just want to point out to everyone, I've been trying to let everybody know about, is CHC. So that stands for Crusaders Helping Crusaders. And that means that we have an alumni connection at that organization. So it's nice to be able to utilize that alumni network whenever possible. I'm sure the alums that are here tonight are going to tell you all about that. So in addition to that, this is a place where we host our events. We won't be hosting as many events as we typically host over the summer, but we'll definitely have some. And these will kind of be all over the place in terms of the career community that they're in or the industry that they feature. So come on in and check out the events every once in a while. And if you see something that you're interested in, you can go ahead and RSVP for it, maybe gather a little bit more information on it. And this summer, probably more than ever, for obvious reasons, we're going to have a ton of virtual opportunities. So if you're at home or if you're maybe working a job, you can still, jump on Zoom and take advantage of some of the virtual events that are going on campus. And if you felt so inclined, you needed some support, you could definitely book an appointment with us. And if you wanted to do that, you just go to Career Center, click on appointments, and then these are all the options available to you. These are the career community specific appointments here. So if you have a career area that you're interested in, maybe it's business consulting and finance, we can click in here. And then Lauren O'Neill, who's our advisor that works with that area, has all of her availability, and we'll have availability over the summer as well. Over the summer, we can help you put your resume together. If you already have a resume and you just need it reviewed, we can review it for you. We can help you plan out your job search. If you're looking to explore and maybe figure out which way you want to go career-wise, we have an instrument called the Strong Inventory that can help you figure that stuff out. If you don't know where to start, just book an appointment with us and we can help you get started. So that is a little bit about Handshake, 10,000 foot overview. Great thing that you can do in order to be productive over the summer with Handshake: update your profile. First of all, create your profile if you don't have one. If you can get it right off the home page, click on current students, scroll down to job and career, add a photo, add your education, put some work experience in there, definitely add in your extracurricular activities, and then set it to public once you feel like it's good to go. The benefit to that is once your profile is public, employers are going to be able to see that. And you're going to start getting correspondence from employers even over the summer. So it's definitely worth your time to do that. Talked about scheduling an appointment really quickly, searching for jobs and internships. The filter section is really helpful. You can definitely use that CHC filter, but you can also use your career communities as filters. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And then viewing and RSVPing to events, which we talked about briefly. The resource library. I kind of skipped over this. I sang the praises of it and then I skipped it. So let me get back to Handshake here and talk about the resource library for a quick second. If I go into Career Center and then I click in resources, this is a place where we have all sorts of resources for students to take advantage of. And I think it goes underutilized, and there's a lot of really good stuff in here. So our how-to guides are great if you don't know where to begin. Maybe you want to put together a resume, but you don't know how. This is our resume how-to guide. It's going to give you the 10,000 foot overview of things you should include in a resume, font, spacing, what to include in headers, and then a nice little sample to get you started. Long story short on resumes, leading with your education, and then building out your work experience, activities, and service in a way to where the employer can see your title, the role or title, the company or organization, the location, and the timeline, and then expanding on what your job responsibilities were underneath using eye-popping action words. And if you got stuck on those action words, look at that. We've got a whole bunch below. Super helpful. In addition to that, we have a number of other how-to guides on cover letters, interviewing. We've even got a Handshake and how to navigate Handshake guide. We've got this cool CCD on demand section, which is a Google site where we post all of our former panels, some how-to videos. So if you ever need some help with something, you can always book an appointment for sure. But if you just have a quick second and you need to look something up, maybe you're trying to figure out how to write a cover letter, you can go in and check out one of these videos quickly and just get that finished. We also have some pretty sweet job search resources in here as well. I work with students interested in education, human service, and nonprofit as a career area. So we've got a link to Idealist here, which is kind of like the Indeed jobs, but specifically for the not-for-profit industry. And then some other specific job search connections as well, Going Global for students who are interested in kind of international experience and those sort of things. Interview Stream is an interview practice platform that's super useful. We even have contact information, emails for all the students that we've supported for summer internships. So maybe there's a fellow student that has an internship that you'd be interested in doing. They did that last summer. You can reach out to them and potentially connect with them and learn a little bit more about their experience. So that's a little bit about the resource library in Handshake. And then in terms of staying productive over the summer, a resume is a great way to get started. If you don't have one put together, jump on Handshake, navigate to that how-to guide, and take a stab at putting something together. So resumes and cover letters are great because they're the first impression that you get to give your employer. A resume is just a summary of your accomplishments, and your cover letter really tells a story about them and gives the employer a little bit more information about why you see that employer being different, what you can take away from them, and what really resonates with you about the work that they do. So check out the how-to guides. And then if you don't know where to start, book a document review with us. Those appointments are only 15 minutes long, so they're really short. You can book them on your lunch break if you're working or hanging out, and you can bang out a document review really quickly. Another thing that students have had a lot of success with during the pandemic is networking. My hypothesis about why this is kind of working well for students is, first of all, our alums are crazy. Crazy in a good way. They expect students to be reaching out to them. They want to give back. They want to connect with them. And the other thing is, my hypothesis is that people are looking for a way to feel normal in a very abnormal time, and giving back and building relationships makes people feel normal. So not a great time to job search, although not as bad as one would have you believe, but it is a really good time to do some networking. How do you go about doing that? Using HC Network and LinkedIn. So HC Network is the Holy Cross specific networking platform, kind of like LinkedIn specifically for Holy Cross. One of the great uses of HC Network is that the alums that are in here have created profiles with the explicit purpose of connecting with current students and other alums and networking with them and supporting them in any way they can. So I'm just going to click on Heather's profile here. I can read a little bit about her. She's an associate news editor at UMass Amherst, so that's pretty cool. What did she do while she was there? What does she do after college? And then if I decide that Heather's pretty cool, I can go in, send her a message. The really cool thing about HC Network is that these messages are pre-populated, and I can reach out to her and ask her if she'd like to do an informational interview. Informational interviews are awesome. They're very non-threatening. People's favorite subject in the world is themselves, and that's all you're asking them to do is talk about themselves and be an expert in their field. It's a great way to build some relationships. It's very non-threatening. I know that networking scares people and can be painful. This is a very painless way to go about doing it. I'm sure that most folks have heard of LinkedIn, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But LinkedIn is kind of the worldwide professional networking site. If you wanted to do some Holy Cross specific networking, a great way to go about doing that is to navigate to the Holy Cross homepage. And all you need to do is search Holy Cross in the search bar, or you can get it right off your profile, and then navigate to the alumni tab. And you can see in here, we've got 37,000 or so alums in here, broken out by where they live, where they work, what they do, what they studied. That can be great for someone who's maybe considering a major potentially. And then what they're identifying as skills and how closely connected you are. So you could do this a couple of different ways. You can kind of just see what's out there and do some general exploring. Maybe there's an area of the country that you know you want to live in. Let's say Washington, D.C. And you can kind of do some general networking based on where people live. See anybody you know, Edgar? Yeah. Or if you have a specific company you want to work for, you can go in and do a keyword specific search for a company. I always pick Pepsi for some reason or another. I don't know why. I don't drink Pepsi, but I always pick Pepsi. And I'll click on Brittany because I know her. And again, similar thing, just read up a little bit about the alum, what they did after college, their journey, send them a message and ask them if they'd be interested in doing an informational interview. Our alums expect this, and most of our alums look forward to this type of thing. That's a little bit about how to leverage the Holy Cross community. Quick sample on how you can connect with folks. I shared this with Chris, so Chris, you can share the presentation with folks when we're done. And then I put together this handy checklist for students for the summer. So I know that Holy Cross students love accomplishing tasks. So we put together this list in task format. You don't feel like you have to complete all of these, but if you did, you would be well on your way to having an incredibly productive summer, regardless of whether you have an internship, whether you have another job, or whether you're just at home trying to stay productive. We're here to help. We're offering, like I said, appointments all summer long. If you get an interview, we can help you with that. If you're trying to figure out where you want to go, we can help you with that. Definitely take advantage of the resource library. And that is my very, very quick presentation. With that being said, I will stop my screen share and take any questions for anybody that's here.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does one build experience, since what if like I didn't have a job, so I don't really have any experience to like put myself out there?
Yeah, so how do you start to put things on your resume?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Jacqueline, can I ask you, what type of work are you interested in doing? Do you know where you'd want to go career-wise yet?
Well, I'm planning to major in math and computer science.
Math and computer science. Awesome. That's great. So there's a couple different things I would recommend. So first things first, I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is going to be a great time for you to do some informational interviewing with alums who majored in those things. It's going to give you a sense of the direction that you can go in. I know that you're not necessarily going to be able to put an informational interview on your resume, but it is a great way to go about being productive. The other thing I would say is if you navigate to HC Network, there's a section on there called projects, and alums are actually posting projects in there. The vast majority of them are unpaid, but some of them are paid. A lot of them in the computer science type space. So you could potentially go in there and see if there's a project that you could work on with an alum, and that would definitely be something that you could add to your resume. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
And Jacqueline, something to know too is that feel free to keep hanging in there. When we turn it over to the alums who have joined us, I'm sure they had similar questions, and so feel free to ask them too about how they navigated that, trying to figure out like I don't have anything on my resume. What do I do? So hold on to that question too for when we turn it over to the alums. But great question thus far. Well, Ben, thank you so much. I learned a lot in terms of what the CCD has to offer, especially with the platform, knowing that, students can go into Handshake and they can, immediately connect with alums of the college. The messages are pre-populated. So I know for some students, there might be some general anxiety around what do I put in this first outreach, in this first message. So great resource. Thank you for sharing, Ben. Really appreciate you being here, and look forward to more connection with your office and further collaboration. So thank you so much. And I will definitely share the presentation and the handout with the student participants tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to our students for being here and for our alums for being here. Everybody have a great night.
All right. Have a good night. All right. So now we are going to transition a little bit, get into hear from our alums who will answer questions, but also who will talk more about how they maximized their summers during college and at Holy Cross. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our alums just to introduce themselves. And for the folks, if you joined us later on, feel free to use the chat function, drop any questions, any comments that you have for the alums as they engage throughout this session. I also want to note that we have a small group, so we will keep it formally informal. So it's like we're in a community together. Pretend that we're in a space together and we're just chit-chatting. So don't feel shy to engage throughout tonight's session. So turning it over to our alums. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind. So just introduce myself first and then we can, okay, awesome. So my name's Edgar. Originally class of 2016, but I graduated, walked the stage 2017. I'm currently working in Congress and I've been there since I've graduated from Holy Cross. Now I am currently, actually starting next week, I'll be starting with a new center from California, from my home state. That's where I'm from originally, from the LA Pomona region. So if any LA fans or any natives of LA, welcome. For me, I don't know how deep you want me to go, Chris, or if I can just keep going.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Good. So I guess I can tell you a little bit about how I started on the Hill and sort of where I've come to this point now. So I actually did the Washington semester program from Holy Cross. And that really sort of helped me stay in DC. I never really thought that I wanted to stay in DC. I always wanted and knew that I wanted to get into politics for the most part. I didn't really know exactly how that looked like, to be honest. So I did the Washington semester program, and that sort of led me to do a congressional internship on the Hill. But going back a little bit, back in high school, I actually reached out to back then Assembly member Norma Torres. She is now the congresswoman for my home district, my home region. And back when she was the assembly member, I was actually volunteering with her. So I know someone asked a question about how you actually get started. Well, volunteering is a great way to do it. And you start building out that resume. You start building out that experience that even if it's unpaid or just volunteer, you actually can point to something that you did. And so that's basically what I did throughout the entire high school, my entire high school time with the assembly member back then. So fast forward to when I was interning for a congressional office, I actually reached out to her office and I asked, hey, I'm doing this Washington semester program. I'd really love to intern in your office. I don't know if you remember me. Luckily she did, but her staff, was a completely different staff and they didn't know me. So I just spoke to my experiences back then and I told them exactly what I did for the congresswoman and what I would like to do and love to do as a congressional intern. So doing that, I eventually, this was back in the fall of 2016. I was doing a congressional internship with her and she actually flew me back to California. And as you might remember, this was during the presidential election year. So we were actually going all across the state in Central California, Southern California region as well. And eventually a couple of weekends, we actually made the trip out to Las Vegas, to the Nevada region, mainly because there were some competitive congressional races out there, but also because it was Hillary Clinton, the presidential campaign too. So it was really cool to just drive around with the congresswoman, do campaign stops here and there. And eventually when we got back to DC, she offered me a job to stay in DC. So that was my way to sort of stay on the Hill. Again, I wanted to eventually come back to California, but I figured, this is a great opportunity. Why not take it? And Holy Cross gave me that opportunity to be able to do that internship in the first place. Obviously, I don't know if anyone's interested in doing the Washington semester program. I would definitely recommend it. You don't have to do anything in government if you don't want to. There's a lot of areas that you can definitely pursue. A lot of opportunity here in DC too. So definitely consider it if you haven't already. And obviously consider me a resource. But yeah, moving forward, here I am 5 years later, still on the Hill and still doing what I love doing. So I'll pass it over to you.
When you say on the Hill,
the Hill as in not
the Hill Holy Cross, but
What the hell are you talking about?
That's right. Not the Hill as in Congress, but yes. Yeah, I forget.
You still live in a Holy Cross.
All you, Martina.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. I also did the Washington semester too, but I did the Smithsonian, but I can talk about that later. So as Edgar says, you don't have to do anything in politics. I did something in the museum sphere. So I'll start. I didn't do an internship I did internships and research, but I didn't start until my sophomore year at Holy Cross. So if you're a freshman and you're freaking out that you don't have a internship or anything, it's okay. I was there too. I didn't do anything at my summer of my freshman year except like do work on my LinkedIn profile and probably watch TV. So that's okay. I had a late start. So for me, I did while in Holy Cross, I did 2 research projects my summer of before I became a junior, as well as the summer before I became a senior. So I was able to do research through, I think they call it's Ignite, like JD Power. So I did that research, and a professor actually asked me to do research with her. I got to travel to Malaysia and study some textiles, which was awesome. So be friends with your professor if you actually pay attention in class and engage and just show confidence that you know what you're doing in class, and just engage in the content that you're learning. A professor will be interested, will see that you're shining, and they're like, maybe I should use you for my research project. So I had the opportunity to do 2 research projects with her. One was textile related. The other one was I got to help her publish a pamphlet about the refugee artisans in Worcester. So being exposed to that really helped me think maybe I want to work in publishing and publication or museum work. So my junior year, I was interested in DC, so I thought maybe I should just apply for it, and I did. So I did an internship in the Smithsonian so specifically in education and outreach. So I worked in the Smithsonian Associates. So I actually went to the Career Center for help to find an internship, and they helped me out, and I was able to get one. So definitely, if you need help, always go to them and ask questions. Fast forward to when I graduated, I did a Fulbright. So all my experience in research, working in Malaysia, it helped me get a Fulbright in Malaysia. So I taught, came back, COVID happened, got a job at a publishing company using all my experiences I got in Holy Cross. So I currently work there. I think my biggest proponent is to figure out what your passions are and then go for it. Talk to professors, talk to anyone. I did a lot of informational interviews, so don't be afraid. A lot of Holy Cross alums love to talk about themselves and their experience. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
Thank you both. I think that oftentimes, like for example, Ben talked about the Center for Career Development, and sometimes when we talk about getting involved during the summers or career development, it comes from a very professional, formalized way, and so even thinking about you can refer to opportunities at Holy Cross, but thinking about outside of Holy Cross, where should students look to find opportunities? Again, it can be within the Holy Cross setting, but also based on you both navigating professional life, where should students look to find opportunities?
So for me, it was a little tough at the beginning because, again, I didn't really know where to start. So I just started asking questions. For example, I know Holy Cross was actually, I know you said don't focus on this, Chris, but Holy Cross was actually helpful with some internships. But outside of government or outside of Holy Cross for government, that really was dependent on me just getting on the phone, calling different offices, different senators and members that I thought, oh, I think they look pretty cool. They have a good social media going on or something. They care about the issues that I care about too. So I'd call their office, ask if they were accepting interns, how I would go about applying, doing just sort of that research and getting started that way really helped me. I know if you're interested on interning on the Hill, you can always reach out to individual members' offices, and most of them even have applications on their websites that you can just submit directly. But for example, going back to, I guess my summers are in Holy Cross, I actually did an internship painting houses. That was the worst time for me, but very, very stressful. I had to manage, a group of workers, and I was painting the entire summer pretty much nonstop. And while I did love painting, I hated the whole aspect of just running my own small business, but I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about, managing people, working with customers, building those relationships, working in the community, stuff that I believe I still use to this day, and stuff that actually helped me in my other two internships. A different summer, I actually interned for a state senator in California, and I actually met him at one conference at Holy Cross. And so I reached out to him when the panel was done, and I said, hey, I'd love to intern for your office. He gave me his business card, general business card that he gave me, but it was a number that I can call and then apply. So there's different ways that you can get involved, and you never know where that's going to lead you. So for example, for me, that internship, I met Jesse. He was the comms director for the senator back then. And he has actually been a really good mentor for me throughout these years. He's actually one of the people that encouraged me and sort of showed me the way of what communications on the Hill or in government actually looks like and how you can actually pursue a career that way. He's now working with like the governor of California, and he's stayed into local state politics, but still he taught me the value of like, there's not a lot of bilingual communicators, especially on the Hill or in Congress or in general. And so for me, it was like a matter of, if you're not controlling the narrative, especially when you're working for elected officials, someone else is going to do it for you. And as you might know, Congress is predominantly white, and just like Holy Cross for the most part. And so there's really a lot of need for that. And that's where I saw some of the passion that I really wanted to get into it. So that really helped me sort of get into the profession that I'm following now. And so again, you never know what opportunities, what relationships you might build. But as long as you're looking into where your interests are, seeing opportunities and identifying them and pursuing them, you never know what kind of mentors and people you'll run into. So I don't know if that answers your question, Chris, but I just
No, it definitely did.
Oh, yeah.
Martina, would you like to add anything to that?
No, Edgar, well said. I think outside of Holy Cross, for me, I just stalked a lot of people on LinkedIn. So before I looked on, first I fixed my LinkedIn page, I updated it, I put all the things that I'm interested in. And then I kind of sat down and figured out what my passions were, what did I want to do? And then I found people who their passions aligned with mine. I stayed in the Holy Cross network because it was easier for me to talk to people saying, oh, you were on the Hill, Holy Cross Hill, and oh, I was on the Hill too. So using that as a common ground to talk to them about like my interest and what they are doing and see where I could go. Because sometimes it's easy to look at someone else's roadmap of their career to figure out what you should do. But yeah, for opportunities at Holy Cross, I just remembered there was a lot. People would email me a lot of like different things, like, oh, we have this LinkedIn networking event, like when I was in Holy Cross, or oh, we have a panel for this. So I think just when you see opportunity, just do it, because when you graduate, there's not that many. You have to kind of create your own opportunities. So I think just capitalizing on the mass emails that you keep getting, or like right now you're already doing working, you don't see it now, but you're actually building your resume, you're stepping out, you're actually trying to be interested in doing internships and research. So you're already doing the steps, so keep doing what you're doing currently.
And just being in this space, right? I think this is a form of networking. So being in this space, being with alums right now, this is it. This is the work, right? I often hear from students about, barriers in the way, to securing internships or opportunities, or just to like maximizing their summers, right? And so what do you perceive to be that maybe some of the barriers that students may face in terms of maximizing their summers, or just like maximizing their career development and leadership development throughout college? And what is your response to this? And for the students, just as I said before, feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat.
I know one of the biggest challenges for me was just financial, coming from a low-income family. So out of the summers at Holy Cross, one of them I spent back home working. The other I actually spent it at Holy Cross, working at the TGI Fridays. And then the other two I spent them and actually doing internships. And so it wasn't like every summer I was actually doing something, pursuing what my passions were. And so a big part of that was actually just the financial reasons. And so it is difficult, yes, to, I think that's one of the major barriers that students face now, is that, you're trying to go into these fields of study or professions, and a lot of them are unpaid internships, which sucks, because you can't really afford to do a full-time internship while also trying to, I don't know, if you're not staying at home or living somewhere else, just basically survive. So it's definitely difficult. And I'll say this, it's not impossible. I know there have been opportunities I have found where you can find like offices, for example, that will pay you, even if it's like the very minimum. Some of them will offer stipends, as long as you can find those resources, that financial aid, and take advantage of them. I have always found it helpful, because at the end of the day, if this is a sacrifice, for example, that you're doing for the summer, getting the internship experience that you might need that can eventually help you out in the future when you graduate from college or in whatever job or whatever you're applying for, for me, it's worth it, And so if I don't know, I guess I'll leave it at that. But yes, I think that's one of the biggest challenges students face. And I don't know if Chris, if it's different now, but I know Holy Cross back then offered some financial aid. I don't know if they do that a little bit more now, because that would be great. I mean, all these resources that Ben was talking about is actually pretty cool. I wish, there was like the templates that, we could follow and then just reach out to alumni. I think that's pretty cool and very helpful to students. So.
Before I turn it over to Martina, to your point, and to the students who are with us, yes, we do have financial assistance. The college does have financial assistance for some of these unpaid internships. And I always say this to students: if you don't say something, if you don't ask, then no one won't know, right? And so if you see an internship opportunity that exists and it's unpaid, I know I remember sometimes when I used to go on I don't remember if it was Handshake then, but when I would go and I would see the unpaid internships, it's an immediate no for me, because I need the coins, right? But don't be deterred by the unpaid internships, right? I mean, still look for the paid internships. I'm not going to take that away from folks, but do know that there are the college does have financial assistance for some of these unpaid internships, and one of the places that you can start is a CCD to ask what are some of these where can I find the resources to help me cover this unpaid internship? And then the next thing is the Office of Multicultural Education. You can reach out to me, we can have a conversation, and I can guide you in the right direction to secure those funds.
Yeah, I remember for DC, I had an unpaid internship and I was freaking out. And one of my friends said, why don't you do the Bishop Healy Fund? So that helped me out a lot, getting plane tickets and for transportation, because DC is expensive. So I was able to, I asked, and my friend helped me out, and then I was able to apply and get some funds. But I'll talk more about research. They paid for my research projects, so I was paid. I think it was through the Ignite Fund for one of the research projects I did, and then when I applied, they automatically paid me, so a stipend. So honestly, what Chris says is just ask away, because if you don't ask, if you don't ask, it's going to be no, but if you ask, there's 50-50 shot. So yeah, and what Edgar said, yeah, financial for me was a big thing that kind of as an obstacle I had to jump, but I was putting, this is for my education, so like I have to do some sacrifices, so sometimes I didn't get the coin, but there's ways to help that funded me, as well as another one was, hey, I'm a woman of color, so I didn't see a lot of people in who looked like me. So I was very nervous. My DC, for example, when I did my DC trip internship, summer for the spring of 2017, I was the only Black woman, period, just person of color, period. So that scared me, but I was like, no, this is my education, this is my passion, I'm gonna do it. So I think those are the two things that deterred me, was financial and people not looking like me. But if you're really passionate about the things that you want to do, and you have and you're what would you say, just stubborn and want to do it, go for it, because at the end of the day, it's you who's kind of blocking yourself from doing that. So yeah, just go for it, don't be afraid, just do it. And there's alums who can help you on the way as well.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, so when, you have these barriers and challenges, there's always ways that you can work around it. For me, for example, it was even doing the first half of the summer and just using that to work the entire time, save up some money so that I can then do the second half of the summer or a different internship, But I think another barrier that Martina was sort of talking about is going into these spaces and thinking that you don't belong there, and I think that's especially true in Washington D.C. And I can guarantee you this, all of you guys are going to graduate from Holy Cross. You'll have the same education as most people who are on the Hill or in D.C. or in whatever profession, and I can tell you that most people don't know what the hell they're doing, and so you're in the same learning curve as them. And that has really taken me a long time to figure out, whether I'm working with my office or trying to advise the senator on what issue, what's happening, but your opinion is valid and is valuable, especially as someone who comes from traditionally underrepresented groups, and that you can help and provide a perspective that, otherwise would not have been in the room. And so I think that is sometimes a barrier for students individually inside, and I think it's something that we all have to try to overcome, because at the end of the day, like I said, you're just as qualified to be there, and you're actually being paid to have and make those opinions. So don't be afraid. And I know it takes a while to gain that confidence, but I think the more you do it and the more you put yourself out there, the more confident you'll be. So
that is so real and powerful. People always say you deserve a seat at the table. And I go further to say you own that seat, right? And you deserve more than just a space, right? Your voice is needed at the table. And you bring so much social capital to spaces that other folks don't bring to these spaces. But imposter syndrome can be real. And as Edgar said, over time, you build that confidence to use your voice in those spaces, but also to know that you are needed, right? And you are not less qualified than anyone who might be in some of these quote unquote professional spaces and diplomatic spaces and government spaces. You deserve your right to be there. With that being said, as we get closer to the end, just as I said, just drop any question that you might have as we get close towards the end. Question for Edgar and Martina: what would you do differently if you had to redo your time at Holy Cross?
I got to think about this one. Let me see. I don't know. Probably I came into Holy Cross thinking I was going to be an econ major. That was not the case. First semester, I found that out. maybe I would have definitely loved to have tried different things in terms of just different classes, courses, different professors, some of which I did not get a chance to, be in the classroom until senior year. So definitely being more comfortable to the point where when I first came to college, I thought this is exactly what I'm gonna do. This is the path that I have to follow. And knowing that I had the liberty, at least the first year or second year, to actually explore and know something else, I think would have been something that I would have done differently. Because at the end of the day, for politics, you can have a political science degree, but really you can have any degree and still work in politics. I can't say that that's the same for other, areas. Obviously, if you want to become a scientist or a mathematician or a doctor, you obviously have to take certain courses. But for the most part, that's one of the things that I probably regret, maybe studying abroad too. I did end up doing the Maymester, the London program, and I thought that was awesome. It was just a month long of like just arts in London. So doing more stuff like that, I think would have been helpful for me as a student, especially coming from California. And it was my first time just being in Massachusetts or like going outside the state, besides like the neighboring states, just being on the East Coast in general was pretty big. And so, yeah, just doing a lot more of that.
I really don't regret anything because I came in thinking like I just came in to just absorb everything. And I mean, college is when you get to explore and think and just do anything. Like I just came in saying I'm gonna do whatever I can. Like so for me, I came in thinking I was gonna be an environmentalist. Nope. I majored in history, minored in Asian study and studio art. Like I followed my passions. I got to travel to Malaysia and Singapore, go to DC and work in the Smithsonian, do all these, publish a book, I publish a pamphlet with a professor. Like I did all of these things because I was like, no, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna see an opportunity and take it. Like honestly, I did Fulbright too, thanks to Holy Cross. I don't regret anything. Maybe one thing, maybe do a Maymester. I forgot that those were a thing until you described it. So I didn't do one because I thought finance would. I didn't have enough money to do it. But then I heard there's like financial aid, and I was like, oh, why didn't I just do that? But honestly, just any opportunity you see, just take it. You never know. Honestly, that was what one of my that's what my mom said, just apply, you never know. So that's what drives me. So that's what I would say, just apply for anything and just do it. So I think other than a Maymester, I don't regret anything I feel like I did everything I could in Holy Cross.
I think that's a good way, like the session, we're talking about maximizing your summer, but honestly, maximizing your summers as a Holy Cross student is maximizing your Holy Cross experience. There's so much the college has to offer. And I had a meeting with a student earlier today. I think a lot of students don't know that there's so much financial resources that are available, right? You just need to knock on the door. You need to say something and know that the help is there. Because these resources exist to help you to get from a place of just doing the day-to-day to maximizing the day-to-day at Holy Cross. It gets you from a place of just surviving as a student to thriving as a student. The last question for Edgar and Martina is, what would you say for students? Actually, let me rephrase that. Any final advice for current students who are still just trying to figure out their passion or figure out their area of interest, or just figuring out what do I do? What do I do in terms of my own career development and my career journey? Any final advice?
For me, it's always been like, I didn't know exactly what something was until I did it. And so doing doing or taking advantage of these experiences as much as possible. And I think, I guess in the spirit of this panel, yes, definitely maximizing your summers, doing an internship that may not be exactly what you're eventually thinking about, you'll never know how it's going to help you. You'll never know how it might serve you in the future. And so I think as long as you're taking advantages of these opportunities, doing these internships, and actually building the relationships with individuals, I think is going to help you in the long term. Even if it's, and I know Ben was talking about earlier, just doing a little bit of network, even if it's just reaching out, having a conversation, invite them to a Zoom call, so whatever you can do to just sort of learn the people's trajectory and how they eventually got to where they are, I think it's extremely helpful, because especially when you're trying to get closer to where you want to end up, you want to be reaching out to these people to see how they got to where they are, but obviously not following in their same footstep, but like learning from 10, 20 different people and sort of finding your own way, and so sort of finding different areas that you can then apply for yourself. If someone got an internship working at a local office, then maybe I could do that with my local office in my local city. Something like that. Whatever you can do, bits in here and there, is definitely going to help you. And one thing I'll say about networking is, yes, do the call. Yes, do maybe a video conference call. And obviously when the COVID permits, do it in person. People love coffee. Meet with them, but also follow up with them. Keep up that relationship. Even if it's something like, hey, we were discussing this issue during our coffee. I just saw this article, forward it to them, or say, hey, I remember we were talking about this. Anything that you can do to sort of maintain and build that relationship will help you, because at the end of the day, I don't know if this may be true outside, but on the Hill, or at least on Capitol Hill, the best way to get a job on the Hill is to be on the Hill. And so one, that starts with an internship experience, but two is also knowing people who work there, because the most success, and I do this with a lot of interns here on the Hill who are trying to get jobs, is the best way to get a job is to have someone flag your resume, someone that can help you update or review it, do a mock interview. And I know Holy Cross, Ben was talking about this, that offers a lot of that. Definitely take advantage of that, because you want to come into the interview very confident in your abilities and what you can do for the person. So when you build those relationships and have someone flag your application to the appropriate people, I think will definitely help you in the long term too. So building those relationships and maintaining them, I think, is extremely important. And I think that just goes beyond Capitol Hill too. So
I would say don't be afraid. Honestly, like, I feel like I said this, like, not that people don't really know what they're doing. Like it's honestly, your interest will change over time, and that's okay. I thought I wanted to be an environmentalist, and that switched to now I'm thinking of education and ed tech. Like, life happens. So honestly, think of your interest and just go for it. Don't be afraid. Use the resources that Holy Cross has. You're paying tuition for these resources, so keep using those resources, because once you get out, it's kind of hard to get those types of resources. The fact that I remember sitting at at Kimball, and then emails of all of these different opportunities was in my hand. I kind of missed that, because now I'm doing the work now, figuring it out, going through LinkedIn, stalking people. It's fine. Honestly, just just try it. You never know, honestly. And then the worst case scenario, you learned from this experience. Like, oh, I did an internship that I thought I would want to go in the museum work. I did it, and I'm like, nah, not really. But I gained some experience. I gained some exposure. I put it on my resume, and I moved on. I reflected, and then I did something different. That's okay. So honestly, just be open and don't be afraid. I think those are the two things that I would highlight.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Edgar, future president. I've been saying that since Edgar and I were sitting at Holy Cross. And shout out to Martina. Thank you for just, both for dropping your brilliance here today. Sincerely appreciate it. I'm sure our students appreciate it too. Again, I'll share Ben's presentation, I'll share the handout, but thank you so much for being with our students and sharing the depth of knowledge that you have, and continue to do amazing things.